Let's talk about the antithesis to a minimalist type of role-playing experience like Necropolis, and talk about Final Fantasy 15. What did you think of your playtime with Final Fantasy 15, my friend?
What game was this now?
Yeah, this was this is the game that had everything in the game.
The everything.
Yeah, everything you can think of for a video game, they put that into Final Fantasy 15.
Actually, there is a game called Everything.
There
right?
is, I know. Now it's confusing. Yeah.
So this was. I did not play the demo that came out. Everyone played. So this was for me the very first experience I had with Final Fantasy 15, and I think like a lot of people, you're either in it as in Final Fantasy or you're not.
Yeah.
And I've come and gone, right? 7 I loved. I played the online game a little bit. And 9 I think I played a bunch. I played some of the early, the older ones. Mm-hmm. But I haven't sort of been into it for several years now.
12 was great.
Yeah.
And
so
it's coming back.
Right. So I didn't really play 12. So I always sort of feel like there's a block between Final Fantasy and myself in terms of just like so much visual flair and so little to kind of get your hands wrapped around. And this game, maybe more than any other Final Fantasy to me, is so enticing because there's so many crazy images to get your hands around, like the car and a car driving down a highway with like a monster on the side of the road.
Right.
Like, what's that? That's not just a regular Final Fantasy kind of otherworldly, hey nani nani, stab at things. This is a totally different kind of beast. And
it's a very aggressive game, right? Like they're really going on after the Western RPG developers, I think, in a massive way with this sucker.
Yeah, and it's a bit of a, it's kind of a road trip game, and it's kind of a 50s Grease gang game. It's got a lot.
And there are giant robots, and there's real-time combat, and you can zip up to some high sort of vantage point positions with abilities that you've got, and then do some incredibly cool aerial attacks. There is some loading in between the stages. It's not quite open world, but it is very expansive, I found, and every character is kind of fully voiced, and there's a lot of unbelievable texture detail, art that just you'd never think would mesh together, but somehow looks kind of cool and compelling. I mean, just the fact that you've got chocobos and these sort of classic fin-tail floating cars and regular vehicles. It's just a weird melange of art styles and game styles, and I was smiling the whole time I was playing it, and I was even playing it on a compromised PC that was kind of lagging a bit on me, but I was still having a good time. And I think this is going to be a lot of fun when it comes out. I think it's going to be crazy, but I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
I think the only red flag that I had in my experience was controls, and especially when you're talking about an open world game where you have to cover a lot of ground. At least in the demo that we were playing, you did a lot of just running.
Yes.
Nowhere slowly.
Well, and you get into you can avoid the fights to a degree, but the monsters and stuff will come after you as well, and they're still kind of popping in a little bit too.
Yeah.
Which kind of throws back to some classic Final Fantasy turn-based type combat, where some of it was unavoidable, but they'll hunt you down, and you'll see them kind of pop into frame and stuff.
But also, like, the car driving didn't feel like you were really, really driving a car. It controlled kind of like it was like barely moving, and it felt like you could just kind of hold a button and it would auto drive, but it just didn't. It sort of is lacking, and maybe this is something they're working on, but it sort of lacks that, just the smoothness you get out of Western open world games that the companies have been working years and years perfecting how to move through an open world game. I mean, when you're on the back of a horse in Red Dead Redemption, running around or whatever, it never feels like you're having a hard time doing it. And in this game, it felt like there was a little bit of a conflict between the controls you need to really get through an open world game and what Final Fantasy has traditionally done, which is kind of caged in itself in these smaller segments. So I need to see how that plays out, and you're not going to know that until you get the final disc. But
and
you're right. Compelling is the word. Compelling is the word.
And they're working their asses off. You can tell that this is kind of a make or break. It must have cost this company so much money to get this together, and obviously all of the extra deals around it, the movie pieces and the animation pieces and the car deal, everything else that they've got that's coming out along with this thing. It's a tremendous undertaking, but I think it is still one of the most exciting games that's coming up, and my fingers are crossed that it doesn't disappoint. Hey, thanks for checking out that video on our EPN channel. It's just one small part of the things that we make around here. So if you liked it, don't forget to check out some of our other vids and hit that subscribe button.